welcome. This is Writing Creatively, a look at our writing circle. Now, I'd like to begin by saying that this is an extension of our reading circle. And the reading circle in the Young Learners Centre in Madrid has been going for the last, I think, 15, 16 years, where we work with students who are interested in reading. It's outside of class time, and they come voluntarily to the reading sessions, and we work with them. They take books from the library, and they read the books, and they talk to us about the books. Now, something similar is done with this, but it's writing. And we find, we've always known this, that readers, certain readers tend to make good writers. They naturally, it flows on naturally from reading to writing. And so what we do, essentially, we've started this last year, and we worked with 16 students who came to us before class. They were timetabled in, and this is what we did with them. Sorry, go back. There. And I think Martin could focus in on that, no? What you have here is a plan, an approach to the writing. And you can see it's divided into six. There's a sixth encounter. We call them encounters, not meetings. They're encounters because we want to take away the academic approach to this and concentrate and focus more on the creative. And you can see that each encounter has got points. Now, this is very much up to the teacher leading the session, leading the encounters with the kids. You normally have 4 for each teacher, and they sign up for 6 encounters. Often it could go to 7 or 8, but this is what they sign up for. And the first is focus on opening sentence of story and point out its eye-catching qualities. Now, you need to select your story and your poem. We bring poetry into this also. So what you're doing is they're not writing anything yet. They're examining, they're analysing. They're looking at good, well-written text by good writers, and this is getting them interested in how it's done. And this is what we're interested in getting across to the students. This moves on down through, as I said, to the 6th encounter. And it gets into quite a lot of detail as we move down through the encounters. You'll find over here the 6th one is all about drafting the story. They have begun to write. We do allow them write. It's all about writing as such. But before all of that, they've actually looked at a piece of prose in detail. And what they've looked at this is more to do with the poems. We have a similar approach to the poems, to working with poetry with them, similar analysis, similar detailed look at the poem for its techniques and how it works. So we have story, poem. We'll come back to this in a while. But again, they have 5th, 6th encounters on the poems. Some students may sign up for the story aspect of the writing or the poetry side of it. What is important to tell the students when they enroll or enlist in this is that your story will be published in our yearbook, which is published in the centre once a year, or your poem. That's an incentive, and I think it's important to provide incentives for this. There's also, as you can see up there, if you can read it, there's a reunion and party for all members of the reading, writing circles. So they come together during our week-long book celebration, World Book Week, we call it, which often runs to about 9-10 days. And they meet together. And it's very, very interesting to watch this. Last year we saw this for the first time, where readers and writers are mingling, and the readers are asking the writers. We get them to just talk to each other, are asking the writers about the stories. And that's really lovely to see. And we take a back view of that. We just slip away and let them at that. And they have about a half an hour together, just discussing stuff about reading, writing, words, language, and so on. So we move on. And then we're moving into, I'm going to talk today really just taking first and second encounters of each story and poem, right? And incidentally, you have all of this on Prezi, and you can read that in detail in your own time. And there's a little handout there I think I'll find for you in a moment. Not sure where we left that, but I'll get it. So, your first encounter. I take the story White Fang by Jack London. Your story may be different. It could be something you like, that you have found appealing, you like it, you're passionate about it, and so therefore you can get that passion across to the students about the story that you like. This is a particular favourite story of mine, because I remember reading this as a boy of 14, 15, and I remember being very taken by this story. Why was I taken by it? What did it attract? Why was I attracted to this story? Well, this is part of the encounter. I'm now telling my students why. And what I do is I hone in on just the first paragraph. And when you look at that paragraph, you can bring out for the student the language itself. It's alive, it's there. And it's chosen carefully by this writer, Jack London. And he begins this story. It is part of a novel, but it can be read as a story. Right? It's a chapter, but it can be read as a story. His first word is dark. And that's significant for the story White Fang. But you can then draw their attention to more detail. Those F words, forest frowned, frozen, forest frowned, frozen. And you can move down through the paragraph, and you could spend, much more than 15 minutes on this. And this is why I go back to my earlier point about, these encounters will depend on how quick, slow you want to go with the students. You could end up with 10, 12 encounters. But you look at this story, you look at this paragraph, you start going into the detail. I've done some underlining here just to show them very quickly what I'm going to draw their attention to. And they each have a copy of this around the table, and we're sitting 4 or 5 with me, and now we're honing in on the first paragraph. We go into that word dark. The first word of the story, dark, sets the tone and mood. It links with fading light and desolation. If you can get across that to them, they now have really the bare bones of this story already, right? You move in to more detail, a little literary lesson here, a bit of alliteration. Where is it in the prose? This is the use of the same consonant or sound group. When you read this opening paragraph, you will see this working on the page. The students see it actually happening. There's my darkness connection. Here's the word movement. Now, you could spend a long time explaining the word movement to a young writer. Prose must move. Poems move. They have their movements within the prose or the poem. But you can also hone in on, this is a very important word in the story. So you give them a little bit more about the story. Why would movement be important about this story? Well, they're moving across the ice, through the snow. It's winter, it's bitterly cold. So movement is curtailed. Movement is almost stopped. And it links in with the whole idea of this use of the word laughter is a cruel use of the word. Laughter is a happy word, as we know. But here in the story, it's this use of the word laughter, which is quite a cruel use of the word. And you explain why it is cruel. If you look at the word movement again, you'll see that it's all about the wild, essentially. It was the wild, the savage, frozen-hearted Northland wild. And Jack London wrote a lot about the wilds of northern Canada and so on. And movement is important throughout the whole story because the wolves are stalking the two men and their dogs. And the wolves are preventing them from moving, plus the wild itself, the weather. And the wild is merciless. The one thing the wild doesn't like is movement. It wants things stopped. And so you then go to the second paragraph, second encounter, and you get them. This is their sort of homework. This is their study work, I should say. They take this away, and now they must come back, and on the second, you discuss this with them. You move in on all the points you have given them, and they now must pick up on what you've said in the first encounter and identify the elements, the important elements of the story, of the prose in this second paragraph and the second and third paragraph. They must now do some work on their own. Then they come and we compare their notes. So there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of examination, a lot of looking, and you'll find them becoming engrossed, hopefully, in the story. You're winning them over slowly. Now, it's not a reading session, it's a writing. So you've got to keep the writing, and they're getting eager now for the pen. It's there, they want to start, but they're not starting yet. There's a little bit to learn about your approach to writing, about how they should approach this, and this is one of the approaches. So we go then to, I will say something about the prose first. The third, fourth, fifth, and sixth encounters are all to do with them identifying the elements in the prose. You then, in the first 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, you give them a copy of the story. You can easily make a little photocopy. It's from that book. You're acknowledging the copyright situation, which is important. You're identifying with the writer, the person who edited or selected these stories. Very, very good adventure stories, this book. I recommend it. They take their copy with them. That would be third, fourth encounter. They're reading the whole story. They're noting on the margins the spectacular language, the interesting language, the language that they like, that they've found to be interesting. And you've shown them how to do it and what to watch for and listen for. Because this story is about listening to it, the wild, listening to the wind, the snow falling. There's a lot of listening and sense going on in the story. And there's fear. Once they get that, they have the basics of their own story. And so on their fifth, sixth, maybe seventh, eighth encounter, they actually are in a position to produce a story. And it's their story we then work with. Jack London is put aside. Thank you, Then we're looking at their stories. And we do a similar look at their story as we did with Jack London's. And they have to pick out how could they make it better. They have to tell me. It's not me just telling them. They have to come up with this. And they show each other their stories. And they're given, hopefully, time to make comments on their stories. So the whole thing, can work. And their stories, as I said, are published in that yearbook. And they're delighted to see their story in print. You know, they're absolutely thrilled. And so are their parents, I might add. And their teachers, you know. And they're doing something creative. That's the point. Then we move to the poem. What do we do with the poetry group? You'll be lucky to get students maybe to sign up for the poetry side of it. But you can coax 3 or 4 maybe. You know, that's all you need, 3 or 4 to start with. And what do? We do a similar, as I said, encounters with the poems. But let's look at it in a little bit more detail. Their first encounter is, again, a poem that I've chosen for them, Wind, by Ted Hughes. Now, can you read that? Martin, can they focus in on that a little? I would like you to just simply read that poem. I'll actually read it as you're reading it, I think. Wind. This house has been far out at sea all night. The woods crashing through darkness, the booming hills, wind stampeding the fields under the window, floundering black astride and blinding wet, till day rose, then under an orange sky, the hills had new places, the wind wielded blade light, luminous black and emerald, flexing like the lens of a mad eye. At noon I scaled along the house side as far as the coal house door. Once I looked up through the brunt wind that dented the balls of my eyes. The tent of the hills drummed and strained its guy rope. The fields quivering, the skyline a grimace. At any second to hang and vanish with a flap, the wind flung, at any second to bang and vanish with a flap, the wind flung a magpie away, and a black back gull bent like an iron bar slowly. The house rang like some fine green goblet in the note that any second would shatter it. Now deep in chairs, in front of the great fire, we grip our hearts and cannot entertain book, thought, or each other. We watch fire blazing and feel the roots of the house move, but sit on, seeing the window tremble to come in, hearing the stones cry out under the horizons. This is a poem that should appeal to any young mind for its sensations, you know. It's also, I believe, one of Ted Hughes's truly good poems, truly great poems, because you do a similar to the prose. You now hone in on ideas here about, again, the use of onomatopoeia. You explain that to them. You can pick it out there in the poem. It's there. The use of assonance, and you can break down those words that are fearful words for them in English class in school, but you then treat them as very natural ingredients to how the poet works them into the poem. This is it's full of metaphor, it's full of image, and there are some wonderful images in there, and metaphors and similes. So all of that language, those literary terms can be broken down and made very simple for the student. You know, if you look at the first line, this house has been far out at sea all night. It's a truly eye-catching line to begin the poem with. The whole poem up there in the first verse, first stanza, second, is like a boat out at sea. The house is now a boat. Hughes is comparing the house to a boat being thrown around. You imagine a little boat on the sea during a storm with the wind blowing. The woods crashing through darkness, like the woods themselves are alive and making their impact on the night. The booming hills, the hills themselves are alive, as the song goes. The booming hills, and you look for the language there, booming, stampeding, thundering, blinding. Those are very Hughesian words, if you like. They're Ted Hughes, very strong sounding language he uses a lot in his poems. Blinding wet, enjambment, it doesn't stop with wet, it moves on to the next. The eye, the reader moves on with the poem. Till day rose, then under an orange sky the hills had new places, as though they had relocated to different areas in his landscape. And wind wielded black blade light, luminous black and emerald. There's a very curious image there, I thought. It was kind of reminded me of an Anglo-Saxon warrior with the sword drawn. I may be exaggerating, but I thought that was what it could have come into the poet's head there. Luminous black and emerald, flexing like the lens of a mad eye. Buñuel comes to mind there. And it could be this. You can imagine something tampering with your eye is a very delicate, dangerous thing to happen. And that image is in there. At noon, I scaled along the house side. You could imagine him going out to get some firewood or something and get coal, I think it's for the fire. And he's scaling along the house side, trying to keep himself up. As far as the coal house door. The coal house door is probably from here to there. But this wonderful, exaggerated distance comes into the poem. As far as the coal house door. Once I looked up through the brunt wind that dented the balls of my eyes. Again, the eye image coming through. Now they're his eyes. The tent of the hills drummed and strained its guy rope. It's like being in a tent during a storm with the wind blowing and it's shaking all over the place, and that's the image there that he's conveying. The fields quivering, the skyline a grimace. There's pain coming through now. Pain is coming into the poem. At any second, to bang and vanish with a flap, the wind flung a magpie away. A bird was thrown off course. And black back gull bent like an iron bar slowly. That is a very powerful image to capture the student. You know, try bending an iron bar. The house rang like some fine green goblet in the note. It's a sort of a domestic scene creeping in here that would shatter, that would shatter, break. Now deep in chairs, and there's the change in the poem. There's the change. Now deep in chairs. You can see a complete mood, different mood happening in the poem. Where now he's now focusing on himself and his family maybe, the person or the people who are sitting around the fire. Now deep in chairs in front of the great fire, we grip our hearts and cannot entertain book, thought, or each other. So there is a sad note here. And you point this out to the students, that it's not just about the wind. The poet wants to convey another emotion, and here it's happening. We watch the fire blazing and feel the roots of the house move, the very house shaking. But sit on, seeing the window tremble to come in. Very powerful image there, seeing the window tremble to come in. Hearing the stones cry out under the horizons. So his family is coming into the poem. And what you do is, you go into the poem exactly, more or less, the language slightly changes with the poem as the prose. You examine the workings of the poem for its choice of words, as I've done, Sounds and emotions. Here again is a poem full of sensations. And the senses are there in the poem. The hearing, almost the smell is there. The touch is definitely there. What function does rhyme serve? Talk about rhyme. Talk about those rhyming words with them. Break down the rhyme. You know, rhyme is good. Rhyme is not childish. Rhyme well handled. I mean, there are intricate kinds of rhyming schemes. If you want to go into detail about rhyme, you can tell them a little bit about the half rhyme that's found in the poem, the internal rhyme within the words. Is there any use of image, simile, metaphor? You point those out. You hand them the metaphors. You underline them, the similes, the images. Explain these poetic devices. Use of like and as to distinguish between the metaphor and the simile. Is each stanza complete? Well, he does use what we call enjambment, where one stanza will run in to the next, but they are stanzas. There's space between them, but they do run on, and that's flow on. Is there any relationship established between the opening line and end line of a poem? Think about these questions. You can have your own questions. They don't have to be these questions either. You know, ones that will suit your group, your students. There is a change in mood in the poem, as I pointed out down at the end. It changes. Point out that change. I think it's important for them to know that. Give students a copy of another poem. Okay, you could give them another Ted Hughes poem, or you could give them a poem by another poet. Let's see, and take a completely different one. Maybe it could be a few limericks. It could be a funny type poem. There are lots of different kinds of poems. You choose one you like to do another one. You could take the opposite. You could take a poet, John Clare's To a Gentle, I think it's called To a Gentle Breeze, and see the difference between the two. One is very kind of romantic look at the wind or the breeze, the comfortable breeze, etc. And the other is harsh, a harsher look at the same theme. Get them to take notes. I think this is an important part of the writing circle, where they're getting the confidence to examine stuff for themselves, poems for themselves or stories. And they're taking notes on the poem. And I remember as a boy as well, you know, being given this opportunity to comment on poems, which I thought, you know, as a kid was a very important task, to be given this confidence and having the confidence to do it, to be able to say what you think about that poem and know why you think that. That could be your first and second session. Again, the timing is important in this. You know, we meet for 15 minutes. So you can imagine I might get through 1 or 2 points here, depending on how we move in the encounter. And I might have to come back to points 3, 4, and 5 on the next one and leave all this second encounter for the third. It can go like that. It all depends on how your groups are. But it's important they get a poem. They bring it back to you with the notes, and you look at their notes and encourage and tell them, yeah, well done. Good for spotting that. You know, well done. That's it. And you go to your second, discuss their notes on the poem, add to what is being said, show them more poems, lists of poems from various books and anthologies. The reason I say this is because people may have this idea that, you know, poets only write about romantic things or the breeze, maybe nature. But if you pick up any anthology and show them all the different types of poems there are on the different themes and subjects, you know, massive themes are there in any anthology, and show them the different themes. what themes are done. Then they think about a subject for a poem. And this, I suppose, is the difficult one. Okay, what are we going to write? What would you like to write about? You've shown them different examples, you've given them the different themes, subjects, etc. Now what are they going to write? And I tend to tell them to get personal. I think that's a good way in. Rather than challenge something that's a bit exterior, curiously enough, you might think the opposite, that it's more difficult to personalize than it is to deal with something external. But actually, I think it's the reverse. I think get personal about your subject. Think about something personal. It could be the death of your favorite dog, or a grandmother, or maybe something you want out there. You want to say something. And I give them time to think about that. They go away, they can do it on their own, they can sit, and then I kind of sidle up to them and help them with little things and ideas and so on. And you will be amazed what they can produce, what they can come up with. They can come up with extraordinary, expressive language. In our case, in the young learners, it's a question of always having to bear in mind maybe the second, or often, some cases, the third or fourth language situation. But they can do it. The work that they have produced in that yearbook is of very high quality. And, you know, they're well able to do it. And I think this is what it's all about. This is why we do this, to help them to express themselves, to be creative, and they seem to like it. I think I've run out of things to say, except that I do have to thank Martin Goosey here. Could you stand up, Martin? And a round of applause, please. This is really Martin's work. I can't pretend to have put all this together. Martin did the finishing touches to all of this, this Presley presentation, and it's really good. Of course, I want to thank Hayden, the technical staff here, Hayden Holland, Aidan Holland, for all the good work he's done and helping me to put this together as well and having it there in front of you. There are other people I need to thank. Hold on, I think I have a note here. Yeah. Oh yes, the teachers helping me on this writing course, these writing encounters, John Winsberger and Simon Harwood, did a great job last year with the students, with the groups. And if you can get teachers on board, as they say, the right teachers, the interested teachers, you're halfway there, you know, with the students and so on. Would anybody like to ask a question or anything?
How long have you've done the reading group first, the reading?
Yeah, the reading has been going a long time. This is quite new.
This is the first year?
Second. This is the second year of this.
And the age groups?
Good question. They're about 13, maybe 12, 13, 14, up, you know. It varies, but we're trying to steer the writing at the 13, 14 age. The reading can take in the 10, 11, 12, up all the way up to 18, 17. And this is a bit, you know, they need a certain ability in writing to do this kind of thing, you know, and especially taking in what you're pointing out to them. I have to say, though, that what I've done, you're thinking, this is for a lot of very older students. This can all be reduced down. No, I'm sorry, I don't want to give the impression that this is for very, very good, the best students or the most proficient students. No, this can be broken down and handled according to your age level. All those points do not need to be covered. You can gauge it according to your levels.
I a story on my way home by Jill Murphy.
Yeah.
And that's for a younger age group viewing.
Yeah.
And I think you could do something very similar with that.
Yeah, you can have a look at that, on Prezi. Go in and you'll get the ideas of.
I don't understand. Where can we have a look at this text?
Martin, can you?
Prezi text?
Yeah, Prezi is a internet world.
Yeah, Prezi basically it's an online presentation tool. So if you go to our live stream channel, that's new.livestream.com
New dot, sorry?
new
Yeah.
dot livestream, that's one word, .com / British Council Spain.
All lowercase.
Yep. That's our live stream channel. You can watch this presentation again on live stream, and you'll be able to see the link there to this to the presentation. So the whole presentation is online, and you can go in and you can look at the text and use it as a reference as well. Okay. So it's not just a presentation tool, but you can use it as a reference tool as well. So just to repeat that, now I have the microphone. It's new, N-E-W, .livestream, that's one word, .com / British Council Spain. And all of the talks that we've streamed and recorded today will be available on there. So Carol Reed's talk, Samantha Lewis's talk, John's talk, Ali Smith, who's coming next, and then the storytelling performance by Tim Bowley. They'll all be available as recordings on that channel. And John's presentation is all online, so we'll put the URL onto the live stream channel, and then you can click on it and go and look at this anytime you like. Because we realized when we were making it, there's quite a lot of text on there. But the great thing about having it online is that you have a handout. The people watching online as well, if they don't have the handout, they'll be able to see all of the text and read it at leisure, anytime they like, forever.
And go to the story, have a look at that story. And it's also, you can take a copy of this yearbook if you wish. And some of the kids that last year's group they've got their stories in there. So you can actually have a look at their story. See how much they've picked up from this approach. You as teachers will be able to pick that out, and see that. I think the handout, is in that bag over there. Is there a bag there behind somewhere? I think it's that, yeah. So what I'll do is, there are 2 pages for this. Yeah. Is that it? Where did I leave that? Must be here. Ah, yes, this is it. I'll leave this by the books, yeah? And you can take 2 pages. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Any other questions?
Where did the idea come from originally?
The reading circle began.
The reading circle, where did that idea come from? To kind of promote reading within the...
Well, it came from our library.
From the library.
Yeah, with the library staff, whom I should thank also, Sonia, Christina and Gabriella, who are great help on this. And I might add, you need people like that to get something like this off the ground and moving, So it did come from the library a long time ago. But as I say, the writing is a natural follow-on from the reading. Or even this could very well lead back, as it does, as you can see from the text that we're working with, lead back to reading, I'll leave. Any other questions? Yeah.
I was wondering if there is a way to integrate this. And I
was wondering if there's a way to integrate this into a 2-hour-a-week multi-level class. I can't.
Time, as I said, yeah, I can see your point. Time is the problem. But what we've managed is with you need your support of your management team to take this on as well. You know, the people who do the timetables and have to worry about all of that, they need to consider this as good work, and it's essential. It's also adding something to the whole teaching area. It's worthwhile, this. I mean, certainly, I know we've been lucky with our managers who do support ideas and initiatives like this, and I have to say that we've been lucky. You need that. I know you're all going to have different types of situations and problems to deal with, you know, but it can be done. I think a bit of on your part as teachers to move this, plus, you know, get somebody interested on the management side, also another teacher to help, plus some staff. If you've got a library service, they're ideal. They're there. They know about this, you know. But a lot will be up to you to move something like this in your various institutos or colegios, whatever, you know. It really will be up to you. Anybody else got a...
Okay, I think it's really important to have self-regulating learners in the classroom, to have smart learners. Can you tell me some strategies to help them to write better, efficiently?
Like,
to
not this way,
different
but...
self-regulating strategies to write better.
Well, you can introduce writing strategies into something like this subtly. It is important to point out when you're doing something like this that this is not for the FCE, for a certificate or proficiency or the CAE, the advanced. This is not exam classroom stuff, right? This is more on the creative side. But you can easily introduce strategies such as, I mean, you have the strategies in the texts already. It's a matter of picking them out, like topic sentence. Most good writers are, you know, fluent, are very experienced in the use of what we call, in language teaching, the use of a topic sentence. A topic sentence is simply the opening sentence of the paragraph to set all other sentences flowing. It's your thesis statement in the opening sentence. Dark. Excuse me, dark. Sorry. The word dark there, that opening sentence will set the tone for the whole paragraph. But each succeeding sentence will complement that opening, will develop it, will bring it forward, down to the end, full stop, next paragraph. Opening sentence, topic, and is it fulfilled within the paragraph? You know, and does the end sentence close the opening sentence? So that's one strategy, but there are several. They're all strategies. Use of rhyme, alliteration. They're all strategies in writing. You know. Yeah.
I think it's important to develop their autonomy, and I think we have to develop different strategies in order to have self-regulating learners. And if they want to write something, I think it's really important to know what's the most efficient strategy, you know.
Strategies will be used differently for different students, everybody's different writers. They'll have different sets of strategies, but they will find their kit bag of strategies to use in their stories themselves as well. Once you've helped them, they will develop strategies as they move on, you know. Okay? Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
I'll leave these here.